And we're joined now by Nigel Pauley, who's a media commentator, to talk about, well, a couple of the biggest stories in the news right now. Good morning to you, Nigel.
Morning, Julia. Firstly, are you okay?
Yeah, very well indeed. Let's start with Prince Harry, of course, who was finally decided to sort of get enough sleep, and had, no doubt he's already having his Weetabix for breakfast, so he can actually bother to appear at the High Court for his case against Mirror Group newspapers. Absolutely fascinating, this case, in terms of some of the big names involved in this case. He is one of the big tests for it. He was due to give his face cross-examination by the Mirror Group's KC, their barrister, yesterday, but didn't turn up. The judge expressed surprise, he said, that the Prince had decided not to turn up. What did you make of that decision by Prince Harry?
Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because when judges are surprised, it normally means they're not very surprised at all and they're very unhappy, because judges are obviously very careful in what they say. But I would say that was some displeasure. And bearing in mind they're very strict on contempt of court and how people treat courts are meant to be treated with reverence. Obviously, Harry is used to being the person who has reverence and people bowing to him. But in that court, the judge is king. And I think Harry's already got off on the wrong foot. It's almost like Rumpole the Bailey turning up a day late for a court case. I mean, Harry seems to... He's like the modern-day Jimmy Goldsmith, if people remember, and Robert Maxwell. They always seem to be suing people. Yeah. And I really don't think that's the way forward for him.
Well, that was always the argument with the Queen and King Charles and Prince William, that, again, they all go with that mantra, never complain, never explain. That's all he does, is complain and try to explain. Now, he wants his day in court. He's entitled to that. There are other celebrities as well. We know he's also got other cases which are ongoing as well. He's actually got another case going on in the United States today. We'll talk about that. Related to him, certainly. But he's going to enter the witness box in the High Court today. This is going to be the first senior royal to give evidence in 132 years. That case involved someone cheating at a card game. This is whether he has to swear an oath to tell the truth beneath his father's coat of arms. This is really serious stuff. This is going to be the first time we're aware of he has ever been questioned by someone who isn't on the payroll, or someone who is being paid to soft soap him. Oprah Winfrey, Netflix producers, and all the other let's carefully choose my old mate from, who I know my family know from school, Tom Bradbury at the ITV. He's never actually been questioned by someone who's not on his side.
It's a very interesting tactic, Julia, because if you recall, Rebecca Vardy fell foul of this. She brought a big court case and it backfired hugely under cross-examination from Colleen Rooney's lawyers. The basic fact is that lawyers aren't going to soft soap. There's millions and millions of pounds at stake here. They are going to pin him and question him like he's never been questioned. And they're not going to take into account that he is a member of the royal family. Yeah. He's just Joe Public in the witness box, and he won't get any special favours.
No, indeed. And these are top cases. I mean, his case, David Shepherd, we know him from Leveson. He's been involved in all of the big cases over the years. Clearly, though, not listened to when it comes to this client who, was at his daughter's birthday party, flew in Sunday night, ready for the court, but had jet lag, and so didn't want to attend. I mean, that's, as we say, not going to fly for most people. But the Mirror's KC, Andrew Green, he said it was absolutely extraordinary that Harry was not available for day one of his trial, and indeed he was granted an extra half a day to cross-examine Prince Harry as a result of that. So that's already a decision that's gone against Prince Harry, because the more time he spends in that witness box, the more time for things to go horribly wrong. Cross-examination rarely helps you. And this is the thing, you can make a lot of accusations, you can make a lot of claims, and yes, we know there are lots of other cases, and there are cases that have been settled with various newspaper groups as well, but we are looking at someone actually having to have evidence for what they say, to actually, the black and white evidence for the claims that he is making, and he's never been asked for that before.
No, as we all know, there are claims that his phone was hacked, but as we also know as journalists, there are very many ways of getting stories, and so far there's been no evidence that what he's claiming is true. I can only liken his late arrival to those football teams who mess about and waste time in the hope of getting to the end of the game, and then it goes into extra time, time's added on, and they lose the game late on in a match that they caused themselves. And I do worry, well, don't worry, because it's going to be entertaining, but I do think that this could possibly has not been the smartest move by Harry.
No.
In what, to be fair, he's made some very strange decisions in his young life, and I don't, he's not being guided anymore by people. It doesn't appear to be the people with his interest.
Well, no, but that's the. I think his argument was always that Buckingham Palace was always the interests of the Queen or the King, his father, now the King, or his brother, and it never mattered what he wanted, and he's doing this for himself. But again, we are talking about millions of pounds in costs here, huge amount of sort of emotional and intellectual energy going into this, and he may not win. He may not win.
He may not. Who knows what? I mean, it isn't the jury. That would have been interesting. It is a judge. The judge will look at all the evidence, and there's got to be good evidence. And so far, we have accusations that the Mirror hacked in to get a story about his injured thumb or going on holiday or whatever. But one of the things I heard last night was that his mum said that they found out she'd written to Michael Barrymore.
Yes.
Only a few people. Well, I've got to say, as soon as you hear that she'd written to a show business star, it didn't necessarily strike in my mind that she'd been hacked.
No, but the claim was, no one else, could possibly have known about our conversation, except we know, of course, Diana was a great gossip, and again had loads of staff and was surrounded by, various people, well-known butlers, who are also great gossips as well. I mean, big question marks there. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. He's going to be on the stand today. We'll be covering it all day.